Welcome to AM Muscle Maintenance within Shape Fitness. I'm Coach Kim. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is called Meatless Monday with a side of movement. Today is Monday, and going meatless on Mondays is a symbolic way that supports better health for you, the person, but also it supports responsibility for the world around us, for the environment. This simple campaign that requires absolutely nothing more than your conscious choice on a Monday to avoid meat for just the one day. Avoid lunch meat. Avoid turkey in your salad or chicken in your salad. Avoid, a hamburger. Avoid any sort of meat that gives you the ability to make some maybe unique choices about what you are going to eat for the day in terms of having soy products or beans, but it positively impacts your carbon footprint. And then internally what it does is it helps your energy level. It might help you feel a little differently at the end of the day by stabilizing your hormones or resetting some of your hormone levels. And we're going to go through a short circuit of low impact moves that will help you get through your day. If you do and sort of feel different as you're getting through your day, as you're making a really strong commitment to the environment and to your health. And these are going to be things that you can do. I'm going to divide it into 3 parts. So the movements are 2 short sort of circuits that you can do either standing up when you're at work. So one circuit will just be standing. One will be on the floor, kind of on your hands and knees, if you will, just a couple of exercises that are kind of akin to a little short yoga routine, but it does include some more dynamic movements there as well. And then the last one will be, and these are all real short, by the way, we're talking 2-3 exercises, will be a combination that also includes an exercise or 2 in hip bridge, which if you've listened to my other podcasts, I talk as a coach for marathon runners, running in general. I talk all the time about the impact of being in hip bridge position and exercising in hip bridge position and how helpful it is to the body parts that are sad because you sit most of the day. But let's begin with a postural systems check. And that means we're going to talk just for a moment about the quality of your breathing. We're going to talk about the position of some body parts, your head, namely shoulders, your hips, and your feet. And then from there, we're going to get started as we also talk a little bit about Meatless Monday, its history, and how significant it could be to you and to the world around you. So the breathing patterns that you want to begin taking a couple of seconds to get all of the noise away from your life, right? Take it just if you're sitting at your desk or you're standing in front of your computer, just take a couple of seconds to think about the quality of your breath. You take air in, you expel air out. You inhale as human beings. We inhale oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide. But we want to also inhale through the nose and then exhale. As you exhale, normally it's exhale through the nose is fine, but exhaling through your mouth for exercising purposes is a productive pattern to get in the habit of doing. So you inhale through your nose, and the reason for that is because when air passes through your nose, it filters through the receptors. You've got a highly sophisticated piece of equipment in the schnoz, and when you inhale through your nose, that filtered air activates a part of your brain that helps you regulate your heart rate and your hormones. Okay, so those are 2 really important things. You probably don't think about them all that often unless you are exercising, but even through your day, as you are involved in meetings in your office, or maybe dealing with, moving things around, or just focusing on something. If you're inhaling through your nose, you are helping your body stay energized, as well as keeping those, issues at bay related to hormones that might stress you out and the heart rate that might increase as a result of that stress. So inhaling through your nose is really important. When you inhale through your mouth, you lose that control a little bit. So the other thing that you want to do is exhale through your mouth as you're exercising. And that getting the carbon dioxide out of your body is another really important factor in terms of the respiratory process. Feeding your oxygen into your body, into your lungs, means that you're allowing your muscles to get all the oxygenated blood that they need. And then you need to get the carbon dioxide out of your body. So now we're breathing properly, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through your mouth. And then you're thinking about the position of your head. Your head may be subject to one of the issues we have as modern human beings, which is that craned forward position of the head, where the neck is craning forward. You're sort of collapsed at your throat a little bit. And the reason we're doing this is because I'm doing it right now, actually. I just corrected myself. Your head is forward because you're eager to do your work. You're either craning your neck to see a screen in front of you, maybe, or to drive a car with the steering wheel in front of you, your hands, and you're craning your neck to see. Or maybe you're looking down because you're typing away with your thumbs on a device. But the neck is supposed to be straight up and down. Your head should sit atop your shoulders, atop of your trunk, so that your ears and your shoulders line up in a straight line. So your head should sit on top of your neck. If your head is not on top of your neck, guess what happens? Well, first of all, and most importantly, your center of gravity is shifting. So your balance is off if your head is too far forward because your head is heavy. It's not a light piece of equipment. You're carrying around up to 11 to 12 pounds of weight on top of your spindly neck. And your neck doesn't have much structure, right? The vertebra, the spine, is pretty thin. And most of your neck is soft tissue. It's made up of muscles and fat and tendons and ligaments. And then, of course, you've got the throat and your esophagus in the front as well. But you're essentially trying to balance this heavy piece of equipment on a very complicated soft tissue network, as well as your spindly spinal vertebra. And so when this heavy piece of equipment is bouncing forward and not on top of its rightful place, your center of gravity shifts, and that tilts your balance a little bit. The other thing that you want to make sure is that your shoulders are back. That helps keep your chest open, which helps your respiration. It also prevents pain and suffering in your back. The stress from your neck combined with the pull of your back makes for painful existences. Why we all need massages so often. We've got the tightness because of that pull on the upper back muscles and the neck. Then your hips, you want to make sure, if you're not standing now, you should stand so that you can get a sense of your pelvis position. Because if your pelvis is tilting, if your hips have tilted front, tilted forward, then your butt sticks out a little bit. And that's another common deviation, if you will, of our sort of modern sitting lifestyles. So you want to make sure that your tailbone is tucked in a little bit. And then lastly, your feet. You want to make sure that your feet are always lined up in a straight line with your hips and your knees, your ankles, hips, and knees. And then your feet should be straight. When your feet turn out, you're rotating your hips, and that causes inconsistent patterns of movement in terms of your lower legs and your upper legs, but it will change your ability to positively move through exercises and through life if you don't maintain that position with the proper position with your feet. So now we've done a postural systems check. What I want you to do now, as far as your very quick energy boosting exercise circuit, is get ready for the lighthouse. This is an exercise that I do all the time. I want to talk a little bit about Meatless Monday as well. So while you're positioning your body for the lighthouse with the staggered foot position, and extend your arms out to the sides. Now your arms are at shoulder length. Your hands face the floor, and your arms are parallel to the floor. And just hold them there. Splay your fingers and stand up real tall. Think about your posture again. Tuck in your tailbone, and then stagger your feet to about heel to toe. All right, as you're getting into that position, I just want to tell you a little bit about how Meatless Monday goes all the way back to World War I. In fact, it was called Meatless Monday and Wheatless Wednesday. And the reason that these two things came about, these two programs came about, had literally to do with the staple, the supply of food in the United States as a result of the war. All right. So we think of Meatless Monday now as kind of like a modern spin in the United States of trying to improve our health and do a little bit to save the environment. But this was actually something that went way, way back. And then it was reinstated during World War II when there was so little meat to go around. Franklin Delano Roosevelt relaunched the campaign for Meatless Monday, at least, to help feed the war-ravaged Europe. So we were sending food abroad at that point. And that was part of the campaign here in the United States to help that effort. So now in the lighthouse position, you are turning your head. Your arms are probably getting heavy. If you have dropped them, put them back up. Your arms, again, I talk a lot in our podcasts here at InShape Fitness and in the workouts that I do with people that going equipment free, Meatless Monday and equipment free Monday is a great way to free yourself from this notion that you need all of this fancy stuff in order to get in a good workout. Your arms weigh up to 7 or 8 pounds. If you're heavy, they might weigh a little bit more. So they're gonna feel weighty as you extend them out and keep them out. But try to breathe through that difficulty and just let the small muscles, so the supportive small muscles, having to isometrically contract. So they're having to stabilize the weight of your arms by holding them out. And then the lighthouse move is no more than turning your head. You turn your head all the way to the right, slowly. And then you turn your head to the left. And then keep going, slowly, all the way to the right and all the way to the left. You should feel like it's a little off balance for you to turn your head because your feet are somewhat, they might be kind of shimmying a little bit. They might be wobbly by virtue of this heel to toe foot position. Switch your feet so that the other foot is in the front now, and do the same thing. This is the lighthouse. And the reason, again, for the lighthouse is to activate the muscles in the lower part of your legs and your feet to stabilize them through the isometric contractions. Now, what are isometric contractions? Really not all that important, but the thing that you want to remember is that when your muscles have to contract and not move, they're still requiring extra oxygenated blood. And because they do that, you're stimulating the tissues, the capillaries, and the smallest cellular components of your muscle fibers. That is metabolism. That is energy. That means that you don't need the extra cup of coffee or the extra, the Red Bull or the, extra whatever it is that you do in order to get yourself to wake up if you're starting to feel a little drowsy during the workday. By moving, you activate your body and stimulate the movement inside your body, which allows you to sustain a higher level of energy throughout the day. Now, Meatless Monday has recently, or was resurrected in the early 2000s here in New York City. And it is, again, more now about the improvement of the environment because, and here is a crazy fact that I think is kind of gross, actually, now that I think about it, when, and I don't eat a ton of meat myself, but I eat enough where I think about it when I do. The average American now eats 75 more pounds of meat every year than in just 2 generations past. So our grandparents, our parents ate less meat than we do. Our grandparents ate far less meat than we do now. Some people eat more than 200 pounds of meat every year in their lives. In fact, as I'm doing the rest of the movements here in the standing position, I want to go and find the exact quote so that you know, because it is kind of disgusting to think about the amount of meat that you stick into your body every single year if you look at it that way. The other standing move that I want you to do is a simple squat with a side kick. We call them sumo squats, or really not a kick, but a side lift. So these 2 moves, a lighthouse move for balance, and then you've got a couple of things going on with respect to your the sumo squat that allows you to enhance 3 properties of movement that I define, because I don't like exercises. I don't go by the game of muscle development and even modality development in terms of strength training versus endurance training versus yoga versus Pilates or whatever. I like to think about the way that the body is needed to move, and then to develop exercise regimens around what those movement patterns need to be, or how to optimize them. So the thing that you're going to be doing with the squat is interacting with gravity. That's one of the 8 elements that I define, and I have mentioned this a couple of times in podcasts. I'm getting my first book produced at the moment. It's with the editor. It's called Darwin on the Treadmill, and interacting with gravity is something that we need to do because it's the physical force, our natural, Earth's natural force, that actively stimulates your body as you work against it. So when you sit down into an imaginary chair and you lift your body back up, that interaction with gravity is the stimulant that your body really craves in order to stay healthy and be able to do more things in your life. So with the addition of the sumo lift of your leg, you're going to come up out of your squat. And as you're coming up out of the squat, your right leg is going to stay on the ground. But as you're lifting up, your left leg is going to lift up to the side. Not in a kick, but just lifting up to the side. And then you put the left foot back down onto the floor in like a fluid movement. You're going to sit back down onto the floor, and then you come back up again, and this time you're going to leave the left foot on the floor and lift the right leg up off of the floor. All right, that sitting down into the imaginary chair, and then as you lift up, one leg comes up off the floor to the side. Now that lifting of the leg out to the side is an interacting with the movement to the side of your body, the sort of multi-dimensional component that is another aspect of movement patterns that we are really not paying good attention to in our modern lives. Interacting with or working with the side of the body. So the muscle, the IT band, if you're a runner, you might, or a bicyclist, you might have issues with the tightness of the side of your body because we're just used to doing things in the forward motion. We want to do things that include actions with the side of the body. And then the last thing that the sumo squat does is it forces your legs to work independently of one another. I call this pivoting. And that means that when your dominant leg easily supports the body weight with the weaker leg coming up off the floor, what happens when you do the opposite, that the weaker leg has to support the body weight as your dominant leg lifts off the floor, is an equalizer of the two sides of your body. And that's another really important component of lifelong movement patterns that will sustain you as you age. So those are your standing moves. Really simple. A lighthouse and a sumo squat. Now drop down to the floor and let's do a couple of camels to limber up your body. Coming up on 20 minutes. I want to be finished within 30 minutes. So let's get into cat camels. And a cat camel is kind of like the postural systems check when you're in the standing position. You just want to limber up the back a little bit when you get down onto your hands and knees and make sure that your hands are lined up with your shoulders and that your knees are lined up with your hips. Okay? Now, the only two moves we're going to do here, and we're going to move a little bit more here. are mountain hikers and a plank. Okay? I love bird dogs. If you finish your cat camels and you have a couple of extra seconds and you can do a couple of slow moving stability exercises where you extend your right arm and your left leg back and then your left arm and your right leg back, that is so fun and fabulous. But I also want to make sure that we get you into a couple of sort of 3 position circuits and leave you with a couple of exercises that you can do on your own when you're waking up in the morning. The most important thing that you can do, and this is not just on Mondays, but every day of the week, especially during the work week when you're more likely to race out of your home and go straight to the office or straight to school, is to take 10 minutes and do a short stimulating routine that will help your energy throughout your morning before you get dressed. I do it in my pajamas every single morning. 6 exercises, that's all I do. And of course, other things I do with clients and running, etc. I do a lot of random things for my own personal health, but I don't exercise in a gym. I don't lift weights. I don't like them. I think gym exercising is, well, at least for me, the very least favorable way I would spend my time. So I get it done in the morning every day, and that is what I recommend to all of our clients to do, especially, or in particular on the days that I don't get to see them. So now you're going to do a mountain climber. But it's called a mountain hiker because I don't want you to feel like you have to move very quickly. In fact, I'd rather you not move quickly because I want you to focus on keeping your butt down. And the reason for that is because being in prone position where you're lifting your body, you're holding your body, supporting on with your body flat or parallel against the floor, parallel with the floor, not against the floor, because I don't want you to touch the floor, except for your hands and feet. You're going to activate all the muscles in your trunk. And that is the beauty of anything that you're doing in this position, in prone. So we're going to do a plank on the forearms in a minute, but you're just moving one knee up underneath your chest and extending the other leg back, forward and back slowly. You don't have to do this quickly. Now, if you have weak wrists, and that's pretty common these days as well because we just don't do very much with our hands, you are perfectly capable of getting down onto your elbows and then continuing to do the movement of the legs. The only thing that you might need to do in order to keep your butt sort of down is to move the knees out to the side a little bit. All right. And keep going for a couple more seconds. There's a lot that you can do with this position. You can also make it a little bit harder by extending the leg way out to the side. And you can also make it harder by bringing the knee across to the opposite side of the body up underneath your body. And then a regular plank, everyone should be able to do a plank for 30 to 60 seconds. If you're under the age, for sure, of 50, you should be able to hold a plank for a minute. And really, I push my clients, and I have a 90-year-old client that is getting towards a minute. He's past the 30-second point. He is dedicated to holding a plank, and he's turning 91 years old this May. So this one move, and people like to think of it in terms of its importance in the way you look, in the size of your waist, or maybe the fat content within your, like the tire belly, right? The sort of flabbiness. But what really is important is the strength of the muscular layers of tissue to support your trunk, which has is the core of your body, and obviously therefore the most important part of your body in terms of your movement. But it's also about your vital organs. It's about the support that your heart needs and your lungs need to be encased in your trunk without all of this sort of extra fluid, this interstitial fluid, gas, and fatty deposits that hinder the support, the position and support of your vital organs and their function. So a plank is really, really critical. Now, the last couple of minutes here, as I said to you before, I want to leave you with one circuit that includes moves in the 3 positions. So I want you to stand back up for me, and we're going to do just a couple of moves. But we're going to do them independently of one another, and then we're going to try doing them as a function of kind of a mashup, if you will. I like mashups a lot, actually. So the first thing is a walkout. So you're standing on your feet, lift your arms up over your head. Now, put your arms down, and as you're putting your arms down, you hinge at your hips, you lower your body all the way to the floor, and try to keep your head and chest forward, and put your hands on the floor. And then walk your hands all the way out to push-up position. Do 1 push-up, and then walk your hands back and stand all the way up. If you can't do the push-up, that's okay. If you want to do the push-up on your knees, that's okay as well. But the one walkout is your standing move. Now, we can make it harder by making it an earthworm, where you walk out to using your hands, but then walk your feet in using your feet. And then as you stand up, you either jump 180 degrees so that you don't lose, like if you're in an apartment like I am, you've got to turn around so that you can do another repetition. So that's the standing position move. Walkouts, really, really easy. Once you get down, you've done a push-up. So the move facing the floor is something I call a dynamic dog. And what you do is you go from your push-up position to upward facing dog, where your back is contracted and your legs are really close to the floor, but not resting on the floor. And your chest, it's almost like your chest is puffed out like a peacock. And then you lift your body back up and into downward facing dog. Or you can start in down dog and then go to upward dog. But you do 1 repetition of the dynamic dog, and then you stand back up. So those are the 2 positions now working together. You do the upward facing dog and the downward facing dog in the middle of your walkout. So starting on your feet, you squat down, hinging at your hips, put your hand on the floor, put your hands next to your feet rather, and walk your hands all the way out to push-up position. Then lower to upward facing dog, and then lift up to downward facing dog. That can get confusing if you aren't paying attention to the words. And then you flatten your body back out, and then stand back up again by either walking your hands back to the squatted position or bringing your feet forward into the squatted position. Just make sure that when you stand all the way up, as with before, you're careful that you keep your back straight, you squeeze your butt cheeks, lift through the pressing in of the heels to the floor. All right, and then the last position, or the last move rather, makes it even more complicated, because what I want you to do next is to go back into the squatted position, walk your hands out to push-up position, lower to upward facing dog, lift to downward facing dog, then return to the squatted position. Only this time, put your butt on the floor and walk your feet out in front of you. Now what I want you to do is slowly lie all the way back, rolling 1 vertebra at a time, and bend your knees. Put your feet down, lift your body into a hip bridge. Hold this position for about 10 seconds. And then lower your butt, straighten your legs, and then lift your arms above your head, and then perform 1 slow roll up. And then bring your feet back up underneath your body, kind of bring your body either into a crisscross position, or if you can, bring your feet, and you're going to probably need to use your hands to push your butt up off the floor and stand all the way up. So that 3-position circuit, performed a couple of times, is a real heart rate booster because you're interacting with gravity all over the place in multiple dimensions using your entire body, as well as strengthening your legs, your butt, your core, your hips, your shoulders, and your arms. I'm Coach Kim from InShape Fitness. Have a great rest of the day. Remember to go meatless on Mondays, and I'll see you again soon.